have thought out of Sixers and Heat and Bucks and Celtics and Suns and Mavs that the most rabid, downright almost vicious Donnybrook of a playoff series was Warriors and Grizzlies. And we've now had, this is an even series, and the winner of each of these first two games had a player ejected with a flagrant 2 and overcame it.
Yeah.
It was Draymond Green in the first game, and the Warriors still won. And then last night, Dylan Brooks, 3 minutes in, just absolutely clocks Gary Payton II, who got a start. How about that? They put Poole up. If you had told me they're going to put Poole back on the bench, and it's going to be Gary Payton II getting the start. But go figure, that happened. And then just less than 3 minutes into the game, he clocks Gary Payton II over the head and then seems to clip him as well with his foot and sends him down to the floor, and he breaks his elbow.
Just brutal. Yeah, it looked bad.
And this looked bad, was bad, is bad. And I don't know, does the league come in and do something else because Gary Payton II got hurt? This is that age-old question that always usually happens in hockey when somebody cross-checks somebody or somebody hits somebody and they're out now for 2 months and the other guy just gets a major misconduct in the game and like a 2-game suspension and comes back and the other guy misses 30 games. Like, shouldn't you be forced to be out as long as the player you've injured? And the answer to that question is obviously always no, because, Dylan Brooks didn't know he was going to break the elbow of Gary Payton II. After the game, Steve Kerr had some very choice words on this subject matter. This is what the coach of the Warriors had to say.
I don't know if it was intentional, but it was dirty. And, playoff basketball it's supposed to be physical. Everybody's going to compete. Everybody's going to fight for everything. But there's a code in this league. There's a code that players follow where you never put a guy's season/career in jeopardy by taking somebody out in midair and clubbing him across the head and ultimately fracturing Gary's elbow. This is a guy who's been toiling the last 6 years trying to make it in this league. Finally found a home, just, playing his butt off this year. In the playoffs, this should be the time of his life. And a guy comes in and whacks him across the head in midair. He broke the code. Dylan Brooks broke the code. That's how I see it.
Broke the code.
I mean, I understand why he has to say all of that, but the guy's going to the basket. Dylan Brooks is going up to try to block his shot, and the guy just went a little higher than him, and he took a swipe and got his head. He didn't do it on purpose. He wasn't trying to take him out. There's 3 minutes into the game. What does Steve think is happening?
I just think it's a very hard game that these guys are playing with each other. And we saw less than a minute later, Draymond take an elbow to the head. He takes an elbow to the head from Xavier Tillman. No foul is called. You can't review it because I guess the play continued. Right. He's bleeding from his eye. He's getting booed as he's going off the court to get his head stitched up, and he then double bird Eli Manning flips off the crowd. Eli Manning's it.
Yeah.
Double bird flying. Yeah. And then Draymond had this to say afterwards when asked about if he, I guess, regretted double birding flipping off the Memphis Grizzlies faithful.
If you're going to boot somebody who get elbowed in the eye and face running on blood, you should get flipped off. So I'll take the fine. I'll go do an appearance and make up the money. But it felt really good to flip them off. You're going to boot someone that get elbowed in the eye and blood running down your face? I could have had a concussion or anything. So if they're gonna be that nasty, I can be nasty too. And I'm assuming the cheers was because they know I'll get fined. Great, I make $25 million a year. I should be just fine.
A flagrant 2 and a finger 2 in 2 games for Draymond Green.
Draymond might be growing on me. I understand he's not the most likable player, but
I don't like the elitist stuff like that. Like, I make more money than you, and you're poor. And
Yeah,
you're
that's kinda
cheering
whack to
me.
me.
he didn't call them poor.
He's
but
just
that's
like,
the-
I'm
that's
rich, you're not. I can afford it. I'll make an appearance and whatever.
I mean, put yourself in his shoes, though. He could be injured, and they're cheering.
Yeah, but remember, Chris, the game 1, he gets tossed out and he's welcoming. He's egging the crowd on. Like, look at me, put all the attention.
Hey.
I'm like, applaud
But
me.
he's the villain.
So,
this is his
this
role.
is-
Yeah,
This
exactly. So what are they going to do? Game 2 now switch? Like, you wanted it, and now you got it. So
Hey, tempers are flaring, man.
It's an
Tempers
intense
are
series.
flaring. I didn't see this coming about Grizzlies and Warriors. Didn't. And I'm here for an intense series. I do miss the era of basketball players being put on their ass. I miss that. I really do. Not to sound like Jeff Van Gundy, who he got upset when what happened the other day when Morant was going up to somebody and at the end of a game, or is it the end of the war? I think it was the end of the Pelicans and Suns, right? And the game wasn't over yet, and they were like saying goodbye to him, but not nicely. And he's just like, "What are we doing?" I saw that video. He was complaining about, the game wasn't over yet, and the guys were kind of hugging it out. I mean, I'm not that old school.
A lot of these guys are friends, though.
I know.
Guy's only 22 years
I know.
old.
I sit here and I go back and forth, and I'm like, Dylan Brooks should be suspended for that, but he didn't know that he was going to break the guy's elbow, and that Draymond, somebody should just say, hey man, just leave the money out of this whole thing. We know you're rich, but he's also, I could see both sides of this thing. I really can.
And also,
all I'm saying is this, though, just in the basketball aspect of this, is that the Grizzlies knock Gary Payton II out, and I think he's become a significant player for this team, and him being gone is definitely going to be a blow for the Warriors. I think they can make it up, but he's become a crucial player for them, and another energy guy, a guy who can, the mitten can play both ends of the floor.
And clearly, they need all the defensive help on Morant,
who's quicker than
all of them.
Quicker than fast, to use the phrase that Mayock always uses at the combine. He's quicker than fast.
Jim Ross always say he's quicker than a hiccup.
And so, put it all together, though, and they needed Morant to score 47 in a game in which Payton II's out. Draymond missed a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, I was shocked.
And they needed all 47 points from Morant. And Game 3 in San Francisco is going to be lit because the emotions are frayed. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.